Well, hello and welcome to the RaceWeek Midweek recap. Now, I'm really sorry for the delay. I actually did the whole thing just then, and for some reason it did not stream. So, I'm not going to actually be able to go into as much detail as I did in the original stuff, but because I'm kind of limited on time, but I'm going to do the best I can with this. So, I'm going to do the best I can to replicate what I just did. And it's really, as I said, really sorry about this, but obviously technical problems happen sometimes. So, let's go into the news. So, starting off with the good news this morning. Sergio Perez is back. He has tested negative for COVID and has been given the all clear to race in this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix. Really welcome news for Racing Point. But something that's going to be unwelcome to them is the appeal against what many believe was a very lenient penalty for them as a result of the whole brake duct ruling being copied from Mercedes ruling, in fact they're allowed to use it. But a few teams have withdrawn their appeal in the form of Renault and McLaren. But still, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the appeal. Will their penalty be reduced or will it be increased? And the Concord agreement has been delayed by, I believe, around 10 days because of needing to finalise the new rules. It's evident that Mercedes are not happy, and obviously they wouldn't be, because if they want the rules to continue to suit them and to be able to continue their dominance of Formula 1. And talking of Mercedes, something else that they're not going to be happy about, and this could have a real big impact on the next few races, is from Belgium onwards, party modes will be no more. Qualifying modes will be banned. So Mercedes, who have been known to have a party mode in qualifying, will not be able to use that anymore. And Mercedes, I mean, a few other teams have that ruling, but have that party mode, but it's no more. And qualifying modes is no more. So, and they have been banned for Belgium. And Sebastian Vettel is going to be getting a new chassis. After his issues, they discovered a fault in the chassis, and whilst they actually state it's not fully the reason why for his lack of pace, they obviously, if you find a fault with the chassis, the best thing to do is to change it. And news in Formula 3, we have Leo Pulcini, who will be the third driver to pilot the 27 Carlin car. He will be replacing Ben Barnicoat for this weekend's Spanish Formula 3 weekend. It'd be interesting to see if Pulcini is going to be in that car for the remainder of the season. And in terms of other series that have taken place in the past week, the British Touring Car Championship took place last week for its second round at Brands Hatch. The first two races saw the same winners as the Donington Park. Dan Cammish won the first race after heartbreak for Rory Butcher, where he had a tyre failure from the lead, which put him out of the points. And then you had Colin Turkington win the second race, just like he did at Donington. But the third race saw Tom Oliphant take his maiden victory in the British Touring Car Championship. And at the moment, it's Colin Turkington that leads the standings by 16 points back to Ash Sutton in second. Then you have Tom Oliphant in third. The BMW is proving to be a very good car once again. Then you have Tom Ingram in fourth, who's been very consistent. Dan Cammish did not score any points after his race 1 victory. He is in fifth in the standings, ahead of Rory Butcher in 6th, Ollie Jackson in 7th, Stephen Jelly in 8th, Adam Morgan in 9th, with Matt Neal rounding out the top 10. Interesting fact with the British Touring Car Championship, all 26 drivers who have taken part so far have at least a point on the board, which 2 rounds in is quite unusual. And another series which I'll be covering more junior series in the midweek recaps, is the British F4 Championship. And as I spoke about it last week, they took place in support of the British Touring Car Championship this past weekend. And Zach O'Sullivan, despite a retirement in race 2, he won race 1 and race 3, and he has established a 18-point gap in the drivers' standings back to Luke Browning in second place, who hasn't won a race yet, but his consistency sees him currently in second. Alex Connor is in third in the standings. He had a very consistent weekend, taking 3 top 5 finishes and 2 podiums. Then you have Roberto Faria in fourth in the drivers' standings. Then you have Christian Mansell in fifth. He took his maiden British Formula 4 victory in the second Brands Hatch race. In the second race, the reverse grid race. Then you have Casper Stevenson in 6th place, who has had a fairly consistent season so far. James Headley, after a victory in the third race at Donington, he had a very bad weekend at Brands Hatch. Damage limitation. Couldn't get out in qualifying. Couldn't start the first race. And that meant that he had to start at the back for race 2 and race 3. He fought his way back to 9th in race 2 and fought his way back up to 8th in race 3. Abby Pulling is in 8th in the standings after she took her maiden podium in the second Brands Hatch race. Then you have Roman Belinsky in 9th. And then you have Rafael Villagomez in 10th. Then you have Zagazeta, Lubin, Pino, Hodgkiss and Jafali. All 15 drivers who have taken part have scored points so far this season. And then next up we talk about the Formula E season, which has just drawn to a close with Stoffel van Dorn taking the final race victory of the season. But it was Antonio Felix da Costa who took the championship, becoming Formula E's 5th champion and proving to cheaters how good Techeetah are in this series. He won the standings, finishing with a total of 158 points, back to second place Stoffel van Dorn in second place. Then John-Eric Verne finished in third place. The full standings I haven't got up yet, but it was an exciting season. Formula E did a really good job at bringing the season to a close with the whole Berlin finale. But it was Da Costa who took the championship. He's a very popular driver and he deserved it. He was easily the fastest driver all season, and he took the title. And of course we have the Indy 500, which takes place next week. There will be coverage of that race here on RaceWeek, where I will be previewing the Indy 500 in next week's midweek recap, and I will be doing a post-race recap, just like I usually would do on a Grand Prix Sunday for the race. But I'll be doing an extensive preview next week, but obviously all the attention is going to be on Fernando Alonso. Can he do the Triple Crown? If he's going to do it in the next couple of years, it has to be this year, as he has stated that he is not going to be doing it whilst he is driving for Renault in Formula 1. So now let's analyse a few on-track things that happened in the 70th anniversary weekend. And this time I will actually be talking about a couple of things that happened in the Formula 2 and the Formula 3 race. But first, let's have a look at Alex Albon's brave move at Copse Corner. As you can see, gets alongside Kimi Räikkönen going into Copse Corner. Kimi Räikkönen has the high ground into turn 1, but Alex Albon has more speed, and that forces Kimi to kind of stick to more of an inner line than he wants to, and enables Alex a space around the outside. But Kimi is having none of it. He is obviously got the high ground, and he is like, this space is mine. You're not going through. But Alex keeps his foot in, and had there been contact here, it would have been a really big crash. But Alex kept his foot in, and he managed to use the momentum and come out on top, just managing to avoid falling foul of track limits. It was a fair overtake, and he actually went on to do that a couple more times, but not in as impressive a fashion as he did on Kimi. So now let's have a look at the controversial incident involving the two Prima cars in the second Formula 2 race. As you can see, Robert Schwartzman at this point has led the race the entire way, but Mick Schumacher is in his slipstream with DRS. He has caught him up at this point, and he is close enough for a run. Schwartzman goes to the inside to defend, and Schumacher is on the outside. And this camera really did give the TV viewers a good look at what actually happened. As you can see, at this point, Schumacher is in front, but Schwartzman's on the inside. Still got quite a large portion of his car alongside. But way before the break, this is way before the braking zone. He does move across a lot, way before the braking zone, and makes contact. Schwartzman has no time to back out. There's literally absolutely nothing he could do about that. And it was really unlucky for Schwartzman because he lost a lot of points in the championship. This could prove to be quite a big blow. Mick Schumacher immediately felt guilt about it. He immediately apologised to Robert Schwartzman, admitted responsibility, but I am surprised that he did not get a penalty for it. But it was an incident that could prove to be costly for Schwartzman. And now, this is racing at its best. Here you have the last lap. You have Lorenzo Zendelli in the Trident in front, but he is being hounded by Bent Viscou's MP Motorsport heading into the Copse Corner. As you can see, Viscou, he gets the slipstream, he gets the run, and he dives up the inside into Copse Corner. But that's inevitably going to put him vulnerable to attack from Zendelli going into Stowe Corner. As you can see, Zendelli gets the run, and he makes it around the outside. But Viscou is able to switch back to the inside. And able to kind of switch back and get on the outside of Zendelli. Zendelli has to brake late going into Vale, but he outbrakes himself, and that enables Viscou to get around the outside and pull off an incredible move which proved to be race deciding, and he took the victory. Finally, I am going to talk about, could Mercedes have countered Red Bull, or were Red Bull simply just the better team? And my opinion on that is I'm not really sure there was much Mercedes could have done. I think Mercedes did the right strategy with Hamilton. That was the best way they could counter Red Bull. I mean, maybe Lewis could have been pitted earlier, which could have given him more time to catch Verstappen, but I honestly think that the Red Bull was just a faster car on these tyres, and it was going to be very hard for Mercedes to beat them. Red Bull were just simply the formidable force on race day. So now we've talked about the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. Now let's talk about the weekend in hand. The Spanish Grand Prix. So, looking at the layout, it is a 16-corner circuit, and one thing I'm first going to say is I think the fact that Formula 1 can go to a location with cases that have had a rise in recent weeks, but there not to be much risk in it, really shows what a job Formula 1 have done. And really, and it does kind of show that it's going to have to get really serious to cause a race cancellation. But talking about the actual race in hand, it's expected to be around 28 degrees for the weekend, which is going to be not as hot as it could be, but it's going to be very hot. And once considering what hot conditions caused last week, that certainly could cause for a fascinating Spanish Grand Prix this weekend, considering that it exposes the weakness in the current runaway driver points leaders. So now you have seen the track map. As you can see, it's a 16-corner circuit. There will be 66 laps for this weekend's Grand Prix. And now let's take you on a video lap of the circuit. So onto the very long main straight and heading into the first chicane. This chicane is mainly about carrying as much speed as possible and getting the best exit, so you can carry as much speed going into turn 3, which is going to put a lot of stress on the tyres. Now heading into turn 4, which is going to put further stress on the left front tyre. Now heading into turn 5, it's very easy to miss your braking going into turn 5, which could lose a lot of lap time. Turn 6 is ignored in a Formula 1 car, but then you go into the turn 7 and turn 8 chicane, which requires a lot of precision. Then you go into turn 9, which could easily be flat in a current Formula 1 car. Then you go into one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit, turn 10. And then you go into the final sector, which is very much disliked by a lot of drivers. You go into turn 10, then you go into the long turn 11, which is going to further stress the left front. Then you go into the turn 12, turn 13 and turn 14 chicane, which will likely go to the advantage of the Mercedes. Then you go into the final corner, which is relatively ignored in a Formula 1 car these days. And that is a lap around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And now let's do a brief team-by-team preview to this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix. In reverse constructors order. Williams had better race pace at Silverstone. I'm pretty sure that their hopes for this weekend are very similar to what they were at Silverstone, to be on par, but they could have a bit of an advantage considering it's a power sensitive track and their rivals have an engine that is evidently down on power. And next up we talk about Haas. I think this could be one of their weakest weekends so far. A weekend which is likely where tyre management is going to be key, which we know that they struggle with, and with an underpowered engine. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being the slowest team this weekend. And next up we have Alfa Romeo. Whilst things don't look as bleak for them as they do for Haas, having an underpowered engine is obviously not going to be ideal for this circuit, and they are likely to struggle once again. For AlphaTauri, I am expecting something similar to what we have seen so far, kind of in no man's land, quite a way off the next fastest car, but quite a way off the car ahead of the car that's just ahead of them, but quite a way ahead of the next fastest car. So I'm expecting them to continue to be on the outskirts of the points like they have been. Next up we have Renault, and they weren't as fast around this track, around the second Silverstone layout, which maybe indicates the second Silverstone race, which maybe indicates that high temperatures maybe don't suit the car as much. But the Renault has proven to have a pretty good motor in the back these days, and that could help them on the long straight. they have reason to be optimistic this weekend. This was a circuit where this car raised everyone's eyebrows in pre-season testing, and with the hotter conditions, it should go well on here. And also, with the tyre management master back in the car, I think they have reason to be confident this weekend. On the other hand, I think Ferrari are likely to struggle this weekend, considering this is a track which will expose their lack of power. But could Charles Leclerc continue to outperform his car and continue his run of good form, finish after a third and a fourth place in a car that really does not belong there? Could they do the same? Could Charles do the same again? It'll be interesting to see how this new chassis works for Vettel as well. Made a slight mistake there. I should really have put McLaren before Ferrari. Ferrari are ahead of McLaren in the driver's standing. They had a bit of a rough showing at the second Silverstone race, which maybe indicates that they struggled a bit with the hotter temperatures. But the Renault engine is good in a straight line, and that could really help them. The McLaren showed good pace at this track in testing. Could it be the same this weekend? Could they go back to their... They'll obviously want to go back to the highs of Austria. Red Bull, I think, have reason to be optimistic. I think there is every chance that they could repeat what they did at Silverstone, considering the hot conditions that are expected this weekend, and the fact that the way that the track is... The track that's hard on tyres plus hot conditions exposes their rivals' weakness and their strength as well. They proved to have a really good car on the tyres last week at the 70th anniversary race. So I really think that they could do it again this weekend. And it can be said, the weakness of the formidable Mercedes has been exposed. And their weakness is tyre management in hot conditions. And this could really be exposed once again this weekend in Barcelona in the summer. But the thing about Mercedes is they've had a week to actually discover what caused the issues. So they may be a bit more prepared than they were last week for potential tyre issues. So, looking at the drivers' standings going into the Spanish Grand Prix, it's Lewis Hamilton that leads the table 30 points ahead of Max Verstappen. He's going to be a bit concerned by that if Red Bull do turn out to have an advantage going into this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas is in third, 4 points behind Verstappen. Then you have Charles Leclerc in fourth. He moved ahead of Lando Norris at the last race, but Lando Norris is still in fifth. Then you have Alex Albon in sixth, Lance Stroll in seventh, Sergio Perez in eighth, Daniel Ricciardo in ninth, then Esteban Ocon rounding out the top 10. So also we have the Formula 2 races this weekend. We have another round of the Formula 2 series, and Robert Schwartzman will be keen to bounce back after a massive blow. He lost the points lead at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix to Callum Ilott. But Robert Schwartzman has shown pace at this track in the past. I mean, he actually won the first race last year in Formula 3 as a result of a post-race penalty. But in the standings, we have Callum Ilott, who will be keen to defend his championship lead. Then you have Christian Lundgaard in second. Christian Lundgaard in second on 87. 19 points behind Eilert. Then you have Robert Schwartzman in third, 21 points behind. Then you have Nikita Mazepin, who has shown to be really impressive so far this season. He seems to have really gelled with that high-tech team. I mean, he has a lot of history with them, so not really surprising. Then you have Louis Delatrese in fifth, Yuki Tsunoda in sixth, Mick Schumacher's had a tough season in seventh. Then you have Guan Yu Zhou, who's level with Schumacher in eighth. He got pole here last year, so we could expect Guan Yu Zhou to be back on top, back on form this weekend. Then you have Dan Ticktum in ninth, and Felipe Drugovich rounding out the top 10. And next up, we talk about the Formula 3 series. And again, in Formula 3, we have a new championship leader in the form of Logan Sargent, who is a point ahead of Oscar Piastri. After retirement in race 2 for Sargent, Piastri was able to close back up. David Beckman is in third, ahead of Liam Lawson in fourth. Then you have Frederick Vesti in fifth. Teo Porcher is in sixth. It's interesting to note that ART had really good pace here last year, and I could see ART being up there this weekend. Then you have Richard Verschoor in 7th, Alex Peroni in 8th, Lorenz Zendelli in 9th, with Bent Viscal after his victory at the second Silverstone race, rounding out the top 10. So now, but it's time to talk about the race week moments of the week. Number 5, we have a moment which caused a bit of a stir on social media in the form of Dan Ticktum's rage. So, to describe what actually happened, he was in a battle. I believe it was Louis Delatrese that he was complaining about, and he basically said on the team radio if Louis Delatrese did that again, he'd crash into him. Now, what he was probably saying, and this is actually what he said on social media at the time, what was that he meant that if he did what he did again, he wouldn't be able to avoid crashing into him, rather than threatening to intentionally crash into him. But considering his past, it did raise a lot of eyebrows. And the thing about Ticktum is, he's a fast driver. He just needs to control that temper that he's got, which has proven to really bring him down on many occasions. At number 4, we have another Formula 2 moment, and that is the Primas colliding when battling for the lead. Of course, I have described the incident in the analysis with Mick Schumacher and Robert Schwartzman colliding. This again caused a stir on social media. A lot of people quick to blame Mick Schumacher. Obviously, Mick Schumacher did blame himself and instantly put his hand up. It was good of Mick to take the blame. I was surprised that he did not get a penalty, but it was good of him to instantly put his hand up and say, that was my fault. A lot of drivers would try to defend themselves in that situation. It does show a maturity. Hopefully Robert has forgiven him in the end. They were racing for the lead. But Mick's instant putting his hand up shows a maturity that sometimes we don't even see in Formula 1. At number 3, we have Alex Albon's daring overtakes. And I honestly think right now, Alex Albon is the best person to be in that Red Bull. Putting Pierre Gasly back in the car, only for him to risk destroying... That could destroy his career if he underperforms again. And if he crumbles again. Because obviously we saw what that did to him last year. And I'm not even sure he's going to want to be in that situation again. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to leave the Red Bull program as soon as possible. And of course, if Danny Kvyat was in the car, I'm not really sure how much of a match for Verstappen he'd be. But Alex Albon, whilst he is quite a way off in qualifying, which is clearly his weak point, in the races he is really good at making those moves and progressing up the order quickly. And he is proven, and I think Red Bull probably in the Netflix documentary, it was an interesting quote from Christian Horner. He said, if you crash the car trying to get a good position, that's better than just going around in 9th place all the time. Just going around in 9th place not doing anything. That's what Christian Horner said in the Netflix documentary. And he obviously wants a driver that's willing to take those risks. And Alex seems to be a driver that's willing to do that. At number 2, and this was always going to make this list, an epic final lap in the second Formula 3 race. I mean, we rarely see final laps where two leaders swap positions corner after corner, but that is what we saw in the second race at Silverstone. We saw Viscal get ahead of Zendelli going into Copse, but then Zendelli get it back going into Stowe, but then Viscal putting off an incredible move at Club to take that victory. What a finish that race saw, and it's clearly one that is going to be remembered for a very long time for Junior Series fans. And finally, at number 1, I am obviously going to be putting Verstappen's strategical masterclass. Mercedes being out-strategized is very rare, but Red Bull did that to him, and they earned this win. They were simply the best team on race day. They had a car that could handle the tyres much better than the Mercedes, exposed Mercedes' weakness, and has really given us a lot of hope that now Red Bull, now we know what Mercedes' Achilles heel is. Now everyone is hoping for hot races, which could cause the Mercedes to suffer. But it was really good to see Mercedes' streak broken in that way. For many people, it would have been quite a relief to not have one team winning all races, and Verstappen really deserved the win. So that is it for here on Race Week for the midweek show. Now, talking about the Twitter account, I'm trying my best to recover it. I've had a few issues with it, in the sense that Twitter's algorithm thought that the live updates were very robotic. I mean, I can see why that happened, but I'm trying to find a way to be able to prove that account wasn't a robot, and to be able to reactivate that account so I can return to doing the live updates for tomorrow's action. But thank you very much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow here on this channel for the Friday recap. Goodbye.